Hello, hello. I'm Paolo del Rosario. It is a brand new day, so let's get you up to speed with some news that you could use right now.
Rise and shine, beautiful people. I'm Anne Asis-Carilo. We bring you inspiration, good vibes, and great energy as we wrap up 2024.
And I'm Monique Tuzon. Your mornings are mo fun with us. Join us in the next hour for stories and conversations that matter. And today we have a very special show for you guys because
We got history.
Yes.
We got history in the making.
That's
of
right.
course. And can I just say, mali yung spiel ko eh. Kanina sinabi ko, I said news that you could use right now. Pero our news was made in 1896 eh. Kaya,
I mean, you still can use it. It's still,
tama,
it's still
tama.
news that you
Kasi-
can use.
It's Result Day anyway today,
Yes,
so
that's
that's
true.
news that we can use today.
Oo, especially for those who have trivia competitions today, yung mga quiz night.
Oo,
Ito,
yes.
Get all your notes down. You're gonna have a good time
Yes.
with all the answers
Especially
later
for
on.
me, this is the first time I'm learning about all of this. So this
Oh,
is my
yeah.
Civica 101.
Ito yung ito yung hekasi mo.
Oo, Hekasi.
What's Hekasi?
That's
Oh
a
my
new
gosh.
Civica.
Oh, I thought it's
That's a new
Civica.
Civica. It was Civica before, and then now it's Hekasi.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
Hekasi
yeah.
101 for Mo.
Don't
Here we
ask
go.
me what it stands for. Baka alam ni Pao.
No, I do, but I feel like I'll make a mistake. Kaya let's move on na lang instead.
Well, it's Result
say.
Day. So today we commemorate the life of a hero whose bravery wrote the triumphant pages of history towards our independence, Dr. Jose Rizal. Now, on this day in 1896, Rizal was executed by firing squad at Bagumbayan in Manila, now known as the Luneta Park. We take a look at his legacy, find out his lesser-known anecdotes, and ponder what he would have been like if he was still alive in this age.
Now, we actually have a descendant of Jose Rizal in the show. No, unfortunately, does not look like Jose Rizal exactly. Actually, yung pangalan nga niya, Hannah Maxine Cruz, live in the studio with us. Hannah Maxine Cruz. Maxine, thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
And we also have via Zoom with us Dr. Jose Victor Torres from the History Department of De La Salle University, Manila. It's a beautiful day, Doc. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, sir, we'll start off with Maxine first because, of course, it's really interesting that we actually have a direct descendant. And some people might be wondering, how well kept is yung lineage ni Dr. Jose Rizal? Because I know a few other relatives who are also in that line, pero how have they really kept yung lineage ni Jose Rizal, at least the direct line to it?
Okay, so first to clarify, I'm a sixth-generation descendant from the sixth sister of the Mercado family, who is Maria, the sister who came right before Jose. And to answer the next part of your question, our family tree gets updated regularly. A big part of it is actually on the walls of Calamba, in Ateneo also. And then next year, we will be releasing an updated list with us naman, the sixth-generation descendants. So it's really tracked, always has been recorded.
So officially, you're not yet there in that list.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Next year, you guys have to wait for 2025. That's when you'll see my name appear.
We're gonna look forward to that. I wanna throw Sir Vic a question. Sir Vic, why was December 30 chosen as Rizal Day instead of yung birthday niya na June 19?
Actually, the choosing of the December 30 date was made by Emilio Aguinaldo in 1898. When there was already a government. We already had a revolutionary government. And that was actually the first decree that Aguinaldo signed. That our December 30, which commemorates the death of Jose Rizal, should be a national day of mourning. And apparently, the law hasn't been changed for almost over 100 years. And it has been followed, that every time that the day comes along, that the commemoration should be done. As of the birth date, I think that another law should be passed with regards to that. But so far, officially, it is December 30. That it's not only Jose Rizal, actually, but those who were killed during the Philippine Revolution of 1896.
So I want to ask you, Maxine, because it's not every day that people can say that their lolo is a national hero. So how does it feel to know that your lolo is a national hero here in the Philippines?
You know, I'd say it feels like a very unique experience. Like the easiest way to describe it is if you've ever seen a fantasy movie or a superhero movie, you feel like that kid whose leading guide character is off camera. That's how it feels like.
Yeah.
That's the easiest way to describe it.
And to our
That's
viewers,
unique.
guys, before we did our show, Maxine was not just born with all the knowledge of Jose Rizal, her lolo, okay? She actually had to study extensively, correct?
Yes, I did. So, apart from the things that I learned in school, one day a few years ago, my grandmother dropped off this big box of Rizaliana. So, it included books, both published and unpublished, documents, and even some other memorabilia, like a board game that he made in Dapitan.
Ooh,
So,
oh,
I had to
wow.
like study all of that, learn all of that, because of course, we wanted to share a different side of him as well. Like,
Okay.
not just the things we learn about in school, but also the things that people may not know about.
Sir Vic, we'll turn it back to you. Of course, may konting evolution of the observance of Rizal Day. How would you
Yeah.
characterize that evolution from when it initially started to what we do here today?
Well, the first Rizal Day celebration was a simple program with songs, a small concert, then of course speeches by many of the contemporaries of Jose Rizal. Then as time went on, it became a celebration done at the Luneta. Okay, then in fact, there was a lot of things that were done. I think the most popular that was eventually stopped, was the reenactment of the execution of Jose Rizal. The Lives of Rizal would go to the Luneta and reenact the execution. Exactong 7 o'clock, the execution will be done. And some of it was actually filmed. I think one of the best reenactment was done directed by National Artist for Film, Lamberto Avellana. And the one who was portraying Jose Rizal was Pancho Magalona, the father of Francis M. And of course, but again, this has been turned into a more simpler ceremony after the 1960s.
So is there any reason why the reenactments have stopped, Sir Vic?
I don't. I think it was more of budget, no, and I think it was also a something that. Well, I think the crowd probably got smaller because I don't think people would exactly wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning to go to the Luneta, no? And of course attend the rites. So except of course for government officials, then of course government employees who are asked to go there.
Sir Vic, so since we're talking about Rizal's execution now, how important is Rizal's execution to the Philippine Revolution?
He was accused of being a part of the revolution, and unfortunately, it was a misinterpretation. But he was a symbol of the Philippine Revolution, actually. He was admired by Andres Bonifacio, he was admired by Emilio Aguinaldo, and of course, he was looked at as a symbol of the development of the Filipino identity, which he, of course, strived to develop during his lifetime.
You know, I have a question for Maxine kasi kanina
Yes.
she mentioned about school, no? I want to know, what was it like growing up, being in school? Siyempre, El Filibusterismo and No Limitangere are part of the curriculum,
Yes.
right? So you studied that and siyempre, alam na alam mo na yan compared to, baka nga mas marami ka pang alam kesa sa teachers mo right? So what was it like? And are there any lesser known family anecdotes about your Lolo Pepe that you would like to share with us?
Actually, my first encounter with his novels was in school. So apart from that, I knew things about him, like from my grandparents, from the stories, but my first encounter with the book was really in school. It was after that I actually read it more extensively. And because you brought that up, one anecdote that I really like is about Jose and his older brother, Pasiano, and how they took a 10-hour Carabao trip from Laguna all the way to Ateneo.
Whoa.
So it was the nighttime, they stargazed, and they really bonded because, as we know, Pasiano was a huge influence in Jose's life.
Yeah.
Like, his political awakening was really because of Pasiano. And though their entire conversation wasn't documented, people and us family members like to think that they had a nice, warm brothers bonding time, especially because that was a moment where Pasiano could really be a kuya to Jose. And then me personally, as an Atenista who also lived hours away from campus, I was like, I can relate to this. Hours to get to
10 hours din yung
Ateneo.
biyahe
Hindi
mo.
ka lang
Di naman 10
nakakarabaw.
hours.
Hindi ka
Ano,
lang
nakakarabaw.
nakakarabaw, yes.
Baka nakatama raw na. But of course, Sir Vic, I want to turn it over to you again because the works of Jose Rizal obviously did change, did have a big part of national identity. Apart from, of course, El Filibusterismo, Noli Me Tangere, there was the Incomplete Makamisa, that only Tagalog novel, Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas. I was also a part of it. Now, can you give us a bit of siguro yung intention niya with his writing, because it did feel nationalistic for its time?
Actually, there was a cycle with his writing, no? But eventually his ideas would change. No? At first, of course, when he began as a reformist, he was, of course, making us aware of what was the Philippines like, no? Of course, equality with the Spaniards, so on and so forth. No? But eventually, when this kind of thinking wasn't accepted anymore by his fellow Spaniards, he eventually had to evolve the thinking, saying that probably the reason why we can't be accepted by the Spaniards is that we had very different civilization than the Spaniards. And he would eventually discover when he would annotate the Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, which he researched in London, that the Filipino had of course this was his thinking, a more superior civilization than the Spaniards, no? Which was, of course, a nation civilization. And this, of course, now would change Rizal's thrust that we are no longer going to fight for reforms, but we are now going to fight for having our own country, because, in a sense, what we have discovered was our identity as Filipinos, but not as Spanish colonials.
Maxine, on that note, obviously you visited Ateneo, unfortunately. When it comes to where Rizal,
wearing blue.
sorry,
Exactly.
we're blue in
UP
theme.
maroon also.
And we're talking about Jose Rizal. Remember the best days of his life.
Yeah. Sure. But then let's go. When we talk about where he's been, of course,
Yes.
Calamba, obviously a big part of it, Dapitan as well. I'm sure you've been to all those different locations. Just can you give us, siguro, one, how it felt being there, being where he was, and of course, I'm sure you felt a sense of duty with regard to the story that you're trying to tell with Jose Rizal.
So I have yet to go to Dapitan. That's really a goal for me. But I've been to Calamba many times. First for school field trips, because of course that was required of all of us when we were in grade school, high school. And then I would go on June 19 for his birthday. So that's usually where the celebration, the festivities are. And at first, when I'd go for school, I would feel like, oh, I'm going to a museum. It just so happens that everything is about my lolo, which is pretty cool. But when I really felt connected to it and the responsibility growing was when I'd go with my family, and then you'd have the lolas lore dropping us a pause, and they'd be like, oh, so this is Maria, because we read about Jose, we read about Pasiano sometimes, but not so much about the sisters. And that's when you really grow to appreciate, like, oh, wow, there's really a lot more to this family than we read about and learn about in school. And then the next time I go with, like, classmates and stuff, that's when I get to share it. Like, oh, you know, this sister did this, and this one had this relationship with Jose. And, yeah, the connection grows from there.
Well, don't go away, guys, because we have more stories and some juicy secrets, maybe, that Maxine will share with us. Because our Rizal Day special with Hannah Maxine Cruz and historian Victor Torres will continue after the break, so don't go away. It's a beautiful day. We'll be right back.
And welcome back. You're still watching It's a Beautiful Day. We're still talking all about Rizal Day. We are still joined by Hannah Maxine Cruz, descendant of Jose Rizal, and historian Dr. Jose Victor Torres via Zoom for our Rizal Day special. Sir Vic, we'll go back to you first because we know a lot about the traditions, rituals here in Metro Manila. But then we all know that Jose Rizal has had almost a cult-like following all over the country in different places, depending on the provinces. Are there any particular customs or rituals unique to certain cities or provinces when it comes to Rizal Day or in general Jose Rizal?
Well, Rizal Day is usually celebrated the way we are celebrating it now, even before. But I guess what would become more prominent is, of course, the places where it was done. For example, in Diet, in Camarines Norte, where the first monument to Jose Rizal was eventually put up, and that was in 1898. This was, of course, almost the same time that the first Rizal Day was celebrated. Then, of course, the Pitan is usually there's a small celebration there, commemorating, of course, Rizal's stay there. So what I mean here is that these ceremonies are basically just the same, but in a special way. I think because it is bound in a certain aspect, to the places that he had been to, the places that he has influenced, and of course the different kind of events that can happen there, and that would become memorable, to many of our fellow Filipinos.
I have a question for Maxine. Maxine, what do you think your grandfather's life and values mean to your family today?
For us, and I think we've also been saying this throughout the interview, it's a responsibility because it's actually a conversation that we had very recently. Now, the farther away we get from the time that Jose was alive, the more we feel like we need to reinforce the values and the lessons that he left behind, like integrity and something that you don't usually associate with Jose Rizal, but leadership, because he really showed his selflessness through his leadership, like especially in his time in Dapitan, where his mentality was, I make myself great so I can help somebody else become even greater.
Now, Maxine, I'm just curious, learning about your lolo, what is your most favorite trait of his?
I think it's that one. Like, he labels himself as a dispensable leader because though, of course, now we have statues of him, and a funny story is one time when they were kids, he told his sisters, you're making fun of me now, but one day after I'm dead, people will be celebrating me and raising monuments of me, which did happen. But, yes,
Little did we know.
Master manifester. Like, that was a big surprise. But believe it or not, when he became an adult, he started saying, I'm a dispensable leader. I make myself great so that somebody else could be even greater, because that's the goal. Like, he always talks about how the kids are the future, and he meant it. So that's something I really admire from him. He never really thought of accolades for himself, but how he could make life better for the people, for the future.
Yeah, it's a funny story about the shrine. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but the shrine there was not the shrine that won the contest for the monument for Jose Rizal. In fact, this is the second placer, if I'm not mistaken, and the original one was not transported to the Philippines, right? So, funnily enough, that statue's somewhere in the world. But moving on to Sir Vic, I mentioned a while ago, I alluded to the Sucesos de las Islas Filipinas, Makamisa, the incomplete Tagalog novel of Jose Rizal. But apart from the more famous, siguro El Fili, No Limitangere, what do you feel are his most important writings that should be highlighted during Rizal Day?
Well, one of them is probably The Philippines, a Century Within. This was one of the essays that he wrote sometime in 1892. And I usually tell my students to at least study this essay very carefully, because by around 1892, Rizal was already changing his mind about the Philippines, and he was already entertaining this idea that the only solution for his country was a revolution. And was already, of course, mentioning this around 1892, before he came home to the Philippines and the El Filibusterismo was about to come out. And another is, of course, we have, of course, the Mi Ultimo Adios, his famous farewell poem. Yeah. Okay? And, of course, probably the Philippines, a Century Within. There's another one on the economic statuses of the Philippines. It was one of his longest essays. No? Yeah. I don't know the title at the moment, but it's around 5 sections, and it shows one of the few things that we hardly recognize, especially what he did in Dapitan, is self-sufficiency. And which is, of course, important nowadays because of our economic, the importance of economic independence that we have always entertained in our politics.
Well, actually, on that note, I want to ask Maxine because Maxine has access to letters and documents that we have not seen in the past. Do you feel that there are parts of Jose Rizal's life that are really interesting that we should delve deep more into, especially with the writings that he's left behind?
You know, something I think that deserves a lot more attention is him as a traveler. Because usually we focus on the things that he wrote about, the things that we study in school, but what about his personal experiences per country? There's a lot to be clarified also in terms of his love life. That's also
What about
a very
it?
hot topic.
Sure, we can
As a resident showbiz
Showbiz.
girl, I'd love to hear about the love life.
You know, my auntie Lola, Tita Gemma Cruz Araneta, she wrote this book called Jose's True Love. Okay? And actually, the true love is the country, but in it she discusses the love stories, the many love stories that he had, and how he wasn't actually a player, okay? There isn't enough evidence to prove that many of them overlapped, and he was actually such a gentleman. And that's one reason why girls fell in love with him. This is something that we always discuss, that he was a gentleman who crossed paths with many women, but does that mean they were actually together?
Why's your face like that? Hold on. I just want to know why your face was like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying.
I feel like that's a virtue of Jose Rizal that Paolo tries to emulate. Yung pagiging gentleman, di ba?
What's the song you tries?
Babaero by Babi.
Yeah, but if you
Number 8 on the billboard.
Look at the lyrics of Randy Santiago's Babaero, hindi ako babaero.
Hindi.
Diba? Yan yung ano.
But Maxine, do you feel like you have this responsibility as his descendant to
Of
really
course.
keep his memory alive?
Of course, especially like I said earlier, the farther away we get from the time, the more things could be misconstrued or forgotten. So as someone with access to this, and I think everyone has access to museums, to libraries, and of course to the internet, we all kind of have a responsibility of making sure that the things we know about him are correct, are
Yes.
true, and that they're never forgotten because he's a national hero for a reason. And there's so many lessons that he left behind which are timeless.
And can you tell us more about some of those lessons, especially to the newer generations, right, who don't really study history like Paolo unless they have to. So what's our history?
I learned from LaSalle's history, by the way. Kaya ang galing ni Sir Vic eh. Alam ko yun eh.
But anyway, what's the big takeaway maybe for the younger generation learning about your lolo?
So apart from leadership, another thing is, of course, to love the motherland. One thing that I really liked about his writings is because he loves his mother so much and he respected his mother, he uses that same metaphor and that same respect for the country. Because just like a mother, the country nurtures us, takes care of us, and it's literally where we are born. So I think that's something that the younger generation should really learn and grow into. We do have to love our country and we do have a responsibility to kind of steer it in the right direction so we can all live the lives we want to.
Sir Vic, the education of Rizal's works, I know LaSalle is a big part of it simply because I've actually seen how much of Rizal you made us read in general sa department po ninyo. But apart from that, just how important is the education of Rizal's legacy, his works? Kasi medyo complex siya eh. You can talk about it from the point of view of him being a reformist, from him advocating and being against a revolution at one point. You can even talk about his love life and we can have a whole big debate about it. You can fight Maxine later. Pero gaano ka-importante yung education niya with education of his works and his life?
Well, one of the probably things that we should not do, is of course letting our students memorize how many girlfriends Rizal had.
I agree.
Because I remember when Gemma's a friend, and one of the things that she told me one time, that when she was interviewed by students, ang unang tinanong talaga, one of the first things that they asked, ilan ba ho talaga girlfriend ni Jose Rizal? And for her, sabi ko, that's so insignificant. And we should learn something more than what is Rizal should be made part of our everyday life. Probably the most important aspect of our studying Rizal is to not trap him in the colonial era. Know that everything that he taught is applicable to today. You have your OFWs, but you have, of course, Rizal working abroad. You have your Rizal as a teacher, which, of course, is very valuable because we have to see how much education has to transition in order for it to become part of our youth. No, it's so hard to have an educational system that is so antique. No, and of course, letting history be memorized instead of being narrated to our youth. No, and I think this is of course one part of the educational aspect. No, second is probably reread the writings of Jose Rizal, because because of this ridiculous thing about debating si Rizal ba o si Bonifacio or or even how many girlfriends. No, we have to look at his writings again. No, because most of the things that are happening now are answerable in his writings.
Right.
So, I mean, like, Maxine, when you hear all of that and you talk about the relevance of his teachings, his writings right now, I mean, does that embolden you even more, knowing that, okay, pati yung mga educators natin, they feel the same way I'm sure you do?
Of course. Because like I said earlier, it's kind of everybody's responsibility to keep those teachings alive. And I think it's also important to remember that before he was this national hero, before he was this topic that we would study in schools, he's also a human. And there are a lot of other lessons we can learn from him in that sense, like his perseverance. Whatever he put his mind to, he could learn, he could achieve, he could conquer.
Yeah. You know, I like how you mentioned he's also human. Kasi mamaya, we might actually talk about yung controversies.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Jose Rizal. Oh, perhaps.
We are learning so much today, but we will learn more about our national hero as our Rizal Day special continues with Hannah Maxine Cruz and historian Victor Torres. We'll be continuing after the break. It's a beautiful day. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Eddie's looking very smart. Hello, Eddie.
He's woken up specially for
Hello.
you.
Would you like to go and find a special place?
Go for this one here. You've been a good
I
girl.
have been very good, actually. Very good. So, very happy Christmas and happy New Year. Thank you.
Smartphones is always the most in-demand electronics right now. Phones are like pocket computers. It offers a greater portability like laptops. This is why consumers' top priority is portability, or should I say mobility. And this is why laptops comes next after the mobile phones. Students, they use tech in classrooms. That's why when they invest on high-tech quality gadgets, they can pass it on to their next sibling, or they can just use this phone after school when they're looking for a job. For example, for professionals, they would prefer not staying in their cubicle, but they would, let's say, set a meeting anywhere or elsewhere. But then again, it only shows that mobile phone is actually a basic requirement in everyone's lifestyle.
Welcome back. You're still watching It's a Beautiful Day. Our guest today, Hannah Maxine Cruz, descendant of national hero Jose Rizal, and historian Dr. Jose Victor Torres from De La Salle University, Manila. So my question to Maxine naman, this is a very personal question. Because I'm sure you get labeled as the descendant of Jose Rizal every time. So how do you balance that, the weight of being the descendant with your own aspirations and what you want to do with your life?
You know, it's definitely a huge part of me, especially like in the last few years. Its meaning has grown so much deeper, and it's something that comes up in conversations a lot more. So I guess how I balance it is by, I don't know, it's not something I'm conscious about because I know, yes, this is a direct part of me. This is something that I am proud of as well, but it's also not the only part of me. There are other things that I do, and this is always going to be a part of it.
And one of
Yes.
those things, actually, that our viewers don't
Oh my
know, you're a singer, correct? Because
Yes.
we did some research. Bully me.
No, I wasn't ready for this question yet. But
You weren't ready? Well, I mean, we're talking about her personal life.
for it.
So, can you talk more about your singing career?
Well, so
Yeah.
I was expecting that as well. But like, I've always loved to sing, like since I was a little kid. And I remember that dream started when my parents and I were on a road trip and I was watching a CD of Joseph the Dreamer from the back seat. And I was like, I loved listening to the songs. I loved how they performed each and every one. So I was like, man, I want to be able to do that one day. So then I started voice lessons. I auditioned for plays and stuff until eventually I got curious in writing my own music, especially because my dad is a music producer as well. So it was something I was very exposed to growing up. And then
Yeah, look at her photos.
oh my God.
Grabe.
Yes, that was earlier this year,
From
actually.
Filipiniana to rock star. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like, naalala ko bigla na Renaissance man si Jose Rizal. And you also
Exactly.
work with music, you also work with literary works as well, if I'm not mistaken. I remember last time I had a conversation with you, you were actually helping write a book, if I'm not mistaken, or at least working on
It's
it?
a compilation of the articles of my grandmother, actually. But that's something that I'll be allowed to talk about on a later date.
Yeah, so
Yes.
di muna ngayon.
Yes, yes. But yeah, so in the year 2020, that's actually when I got to write a lot. So a song that I had written that year placed as a finalist in this songwriting competition. And then that same year, I released my first single with my dad, and yes.
Again, Renaissance family with Renaissance man of Jose Rizal. But of course,
Malay mo, baka sumusulat pala ng mga awitin si Jose Rizal during that time as well, di ba?
You
Actually.
know, there was this one sheet music I remember that was given to my dad, which was allegedly written by him.
Oh.
But after that day, I never saw it again. It's something I asked about recently, and we said like, okay, maybe we have to go back to this. I could be remembering it wrong, but it's definitely something that's been on my mind.
would it be a surprise if he actually did write sheet music?
Yeah.
Oh, not at all. He loved music.
Yeah.
Though I'm told that allegedly he could not sing.
So, so in other words, you didn't get it from him?
No.
No. All right. So on that note,
Baka the composing of the music, but the singing
writing
part,
part, yeah.
yun, that's
It's
all.
really
that-
something
all
he
100%. Now,
Yes.
on that note, we want to turn back to Sir Vic again because, we were talking a bit about how we could also touch on yung controversies around Jose Rizal. And one of those bigger controversies is, the debate on whether or not he was actually for the revolution, him being a reformist. And people are saying that why are we honoring him if he did not want that armed revolution, wherein his writings do clearly show that there was a shift in his line of thinking, especially after his travels. Just how does this affect his place in history for you, and is this more of misinformation more than anything else?
Well, I don't think it's more of misinformation, but I think it was more of a misunderstanding. I've always emphasized we had to reread the writings of Jose Rizal because he denied a bloody revolution. Okay? But he did not deny a revolution that would change his motherland. Okay? And remember, whenever we say a revolution, it means change, no?
Yeah.
Which is, of course, the result of a revolution. And the revolution that he has always expounded was a revolution by education. That the Filipino must be educated in order to address the problems of the country once it becomes independent. And that was, of course, he emphasized this. It was in his last statement to the court when he tried to clarify that, yes, he was against a bloody revolution, but he wasn't against a revolution that would benefit his countrymen by education.
And, just on piggybacking on that, Maxine, do you feel that that's probably one of the more siguro substantial controversies that you find yourself addressing?
Yes, actually, one question that I always get asked is he a reformist or a revolutionary? Because usually people have a hard time classifying him as either one. And for me, that's because he's both. Like, at first he wanted reform, and then later on realized, okay, it has to be a revolution. Though, yes, it can be bloodless.
All right, and of course, when you talk about all of the reforms and all of that, it's just siguro when you look, if you can go back and maybe ask him a question with regard to his belief or maybe anything else, what would it be, just so you have a better idea, better clarification of what he had in mind, Maxine?
Actually, if I were to go back and ask him a question, it would be more of, is there anything you ever regret doing or not doing? Because I feel like knowing what we do now, like maybe if he had a glimpse of how things are now, is there something he would have done differently? Is there something he would have spent time on or not done at all? And on a lighter note, because he's so well-traveled, I would have asked him, where's the best chocolate and where's the best coffee? Because those are things that he loved so much.
Yeah.
Actually.
That is super
I mean, come on, guys, it's
interesting.
important.
Yeah, that's true. We agree. We totally agree.
True.
Now, Sir Vic, how do Jose Rizal's views on religion and education influence the way we celebrate Rizal Day today?
Well, one of the controversies that we always had with regards to religion, was that, of course, he was very anti-friar. Now, I'm doing a big distinction. He was anti-friar, but he didn't remove himself from his Catholic religion out of respect, of course, for his mother. Right? But of course, there came a time that he was condemning the Catholic Church and everything until his best friend Ferdinand Blumentritt, the Austrian scholar, would put him in his place and tell him, the friars are not the church. They are not. They are just a symbol of the church. And this was eventually put Rizal now in a sort of a dilemma, because it's kind of hard to take back everything that you said. But if you look at his later writings, he never eventually would condemn the church. And of course, this now would bring back the controversy regarding his retraction. That, of course, he said that he retracted everything that he said. Okay? But the big question that has always affected us, is, of course, did Rizal retract? Okay? And this has been a continuous debate, back and forth among historians, Rizal scholars, and everything, until around 2020, or around, this is around 2019, 2020, 2020, a document was found. It was an eyewitness account of one of the guards in the cell of Jose Rizal, who was a spy for the Spanish military, that he saw Rizal sign something. And he was signing it in front of the two Jesuits who were with him. He believed it was the retraction. Okay? So that was, of course, another controversy that would come out. Now, his ideas of religion and education, he continues to expound on this. The classic example of his ideas for education was in the Pitan.
Yeah.
The practicality of education.
100%, sir. And of course, we actually wanted to have this episode, especially for Mo in particular, because Mo is one of one member of this group
you
here
gotta call me out now.
that has very little idea about who Dr. Jose Rizal is.
In my defense,
Okay, background muna,
Vic,
Mo.
yes,
Background muna.
I didn't grow up here, so I never learned Filipino history. I only learned it kanina when I had a brief history lesson with Paolo. I had a lecture.
Yeah, from
I
Professor
know
Pao.
exactly. I know of Jose Rizal, but I wasn't but I wasn't familiar of him. So let's shift now. It's not my fault. I'm gonna have haters.
No, this is why I brought that up, because I want to see if we can get Maxine
Yes, I was
to
gonna ask
try
her.
to introduce Dr. Jose Rizal to Mo.
Not just me, huh? I represent the Phil-Am community. I just want to say that. Because I love it all. There's my answer about Jose Rizal. Guys, I took U.S. history, okay? Nag-civica. Oh my God.
But you're also bad at U.S. history.
You know what?
All right, Maxine.
You know what, Sir Vic? Later I'm gonna ask you how was Paolo as a student.
No, he wasn't my teacher. Sir Hernandez, hello.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, this is for you. So,
Thank you so much.
so first, and I think the most common is he was intelligent. So
Yes.
he could do everything, as we know. The second one, he was a gentleman, as we mentioned earlier. And last, because it's 2024, he was very mindful.
Mindful and demure.
Exactly. It's 2024, so I think that's the best word to describe him because
Yeah.
he was always like very self-aware and also very in tune with the people around him. So
He sounds
I
like
hope
a
that helps.
spectacular person.
He
I would have loved to
is.
meet him, and I'm sure you do.
Imagine how I feel. Man, I wish he was someone I could just talk to at a family dinner or something.
Right?
Yeah.
Are there any movies that depict him that you think is the closest to what you've read and what you've studied that I can watch? Because now I'm so interested.
That's actually a good question.
Actually, if we're talking about accessibility, the Jose Rizal movie from 1998 will be on Netflix starting December 30th.
Oh, I just subscribed to
there you
Netflix.
go.
Perfect. So you should catch that.
Yeah, so I got to see it in October, and I thought the portrayal was great, the writing was great. There are even national artists involved in the creation of
Yeah,
this movie,
yeah.
so it's definitely one you should see.
Sir Vic, do you agree that that's probably the best depiction of Jose Rizal in media in general?
I was consulted for that movie.
Oh, ayun!
Kaya naman
I was
pala
one of the
accurate.
researchers for that movie.
Small world. Congratulations on being on Netflix, sir.
Thank you.
But of course, we're not done with you guys yet because our Rizal Day special with Hannah Maxine Cruz and historian Victor Torres will continue after the break. It's a beautiful day. We'll be right back.
Magandang gabi, ako po si Pinky Webb. At ako naman si Corina Sanchez Rojas. Simulan na natin ang agenda. Posibleng paglabag sa international humanitarian law ng dating Pangulong Duterte, sinisilip na ng DOJ. Super Typhoon Pepito nag-iwan ng matinding pinsala sa ilang mga lalawigan. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin muling bumisita sa Pilipinas. Sa bawat issue, may anggulo at ang balita may agenda.
Actually, I think it's impossible to be good and nice all the time. Yes, it's too much to ask. You should just try to do your best, as in all things in life. And if you can be quite good almost all the time, don't worry about the gifts. It's time to relax. Yes, quite big gifts, I think.
Coffee!
So let's see what happens with these gifts. Okay?
And take good care of the presents. We made them with love.
Yeah, I will.
Joo,
And
rakkaudella.
now, everybody, Merry Christmas, oikein hyvää joulua, Joyeux Noël, Feliz Navidad.
Hei hei!
Ollaan valmiita, mennään vaan. Merry Christmas,
Hei hei!
Joyeux Noël, Frohe Weihnachten,
I
Feliz
got chills.
Navidad.
This is Weather HQ.
Good morning. Welcome to Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. Today's headline.
Get to know the latest weather update and forecast with information to help us understand important aspects regarding our
will
climate.
help to prevent flash flooding.
To provide access to clean water and the system level services to everybody who needs it.
Kung alala po natin, ang northeasterly wind flow po ay malamig na hangin po.
Whatever the weather, here on BNC.
Weather HQ, 9 a.m. The Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Ciao, mabuhay. You are watching The Word Exposed.
Prepare our hearts as we dive deeper into our faith and receive the strength from God's Word. Join Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle as he shares the reflection we need for the rest of the week.
We pray that the Word of God would find fulfillment in your life and His blessings be always upon you.
Every Sunday, 7 a.m. with replays at 3 p.m.
Hello there and welcome back back. You're still watching It's a Beautiful Day, and we're still joined by Hannah Maxine Cruz, descendant of national hero Jose Rizal, and historian Dr. Jose Victor Torres. Now, Sir Vic, what aspects of Rizal's work are most relevant to modern Philippine society?
Actually, all of it. I would recommend that, again, to read everything. But to look at these things in a very different way. No? Let's clean our minds of the old traditions and the old interpretations of the works of Jose Rizal. The novels are very important. Okay?
Yeah.
The novels, of course, was addressing corruption in the government and everything. And of course, the El Filibusterismo. I wanted my students, when I was teaching, when I taught them the Rizal course in De La Salle, to look at the El Filibusterismo a very different way, because it's not an anti-revolution novel. No? Because the protagonists, a lot of the protagonists there in the novel were the young people. No, it was Basilio, it was the medical students, it was Hule, and these were the protagonists who tried to change Philippine society, Philippine colonial society at that time. I used to tell my students that El Filibusterismo was like a Harry Potter novel, because these are students who are trying to and addressing the problems of colonial society, very much like the way we teach our students now, that you have to look at the society that was being done by our elders and try to make the change. And that is one way I always tell my students to look at the El Filibusterismo, the change that are supposed to happen. The writings, the poetry, these are all valuable in every other aspect that we have. The letters, of course, were Rizal's expressions and ideas of what should happen and what can happen to a Philippine society.
And of course, Maxine, you take a look at what siguro Jose Rizal could have been in society here today. If we put him in modern times, what do you think his role would be? Ano kaya naman ng Instagram niya, Facebook, mga ganon. Like just looking at that, how would you think he would translate to modern society?
He'd definitely be a content creator.
TikTok!
Yeah.
I mean, come on, look at it. He writes books, so still an author. I think that he'd still be as popular as he was then as he would be today if you're on Instagram. But let's be real here. He would also have a travel Instagram.
Actually,
Right? He would have those aesthetically pleasing reels and cafe reviews from all of his travels. And he also hits me as a type that on Twitter would go viral every week for being witty. That's the impression that he gives me, because apart from being really smart, he was also really witty and had a sarcastic side.
Yes.
And I think that would translate very well to our 21st century meme culture.
Hashtag JRiz.
Exactly.
Wow.
Man, the hashtags he would have used with the pun Riz for his
Oh my God.
Right? I'm sorry, it writes itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Not that you were expecting that.
No, he will use that hashtag.
No, speaking of the younger generation, Sir Vic, do you have any idea how Rizal Day could be made even more meaningful for the younger generations? You mentioned that we've been doing Rizal Day traditions almost the same way for a very long time. But then, do you feel that there could be a way to modernize it and make it more contemporary and try to use this day to really reach out to the younger generation who are over on the social media platforms?
Let us try not to make Rizal Day one just big bongga celebration, and make it a continuous, let's call it a continuous classroom of how to teach Rizal with the young people. No? Remember, we're the age of social media nowadays, and as Maxine said, that a lot of these things that can be put on social media. A lot of his, I haven't seen a website yet that would bring about an awareness to our youth of Rizal through social media. It's always pasundot-sundot. No, but one big project probably that could be done, and of course, social media is so free nowadays, that could bring about an awareness of our students about Rizal. Don't just make it big, 1 December 30, 1 June 19, because they will forget.
Sir Vic,
There are so many things. Yeah, there are so many things on social media they will forget.
Sir Vic, I have news for you because Maxine, do you want to plug something in terms of your social media?
Yes, actually, everybody. You could follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Hannah Maxine Cruz because I do post content about Jose Rizal, the things that I know, the things that we learned in school, but of course in the 90-second format. So that's both Instagram and TikTok, and Maxine Cruz on YouTube.
Oh, diba?
Love
So
it.
thank
She
you.
was
Please
so
check it out.
prepared. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Maxine is now going to be part of the curriculum de La Salle University.
You know, I'm interested to hear yung mga off-the-air stuff na sasabihin mo sa amin. Eh.
on
Things
air
that you learned from the box that your lola gave you.
No, but while we're on air, can you share us maybe one thing that, it doesn't have to be juicy, but something the viewers don't really know about your lolo?
Okay, because like I also feel like I've shared most of it. I feel like I've shared most of it now already.
Maybe share something
Like,
new here, only here on the Bilyonaryo channel. Exclusive. Come on, girl, give us some.
Okay. Well, this is the one thing that I haven't made content about yet, but it was his time in Japan. He calls it his golden month because he was just so happy there. He really immersed himself in the culture. Like, he attended kabuki plays. He called it his golden month for a reason. And one reason was because of the girl he met there. So,
Juicy indeed. Only
in
here
a
on
letter,
Mga chismosa talaga, sorry. All right, go ahead.
he wrote, like, he said that he allegedly, well, of course, this is from his letter, but I still want to be safe. Allegedly, he nearly gave up the revolution for this girl.
Oh, really?
Yes, but of course, his love for the country was stronger, and that's why he left and continued the journey that we know today.
Oh, man, that's amazing.
That would have been a great
Erase
Philippine.
one more time.
I'm a big fan of Philippine-Japan
That's
love
so
stories.
cool. Yeah.
But then, of
That's so
course,
cute, yes.
Maxine,
amazing.
before we let you go, Sir Vic, before we let you go, we'll start with Maxine first. So what do you think is, siguro in a sentence, what do you feel is the legacy left behind by Dr. Jose Rizal? I know we pour through it all the time, but for you, what is it?
Of course. For me, I think something that's also overlooked is that Jose Rizal never once said you need to start big. You can start really small. You just need to start. You just need to do something. Because I don't only say this about him, but I also say it about his siblings, his parents, the entire family. They weren't perfect. They had their own scandals, as we talked about. They had their own problems within, and of course, they had their own fights. And it just shows us that you don't need to come from perfect circumstances to become a hero, a national hero nonetheless. You just have to want to do it and work for it. And that's something that us, the younger generation, everybody could really apply. You don't need to make circumstances perfect for you to be the change that you want to see.
Right.
Sir Vic, how about you? Your take on his legacy?
Well, whenever people would ask me, what did Jose Rizal, what could we benefit from Jose Rizal, or what did Jose Rizal left behind? I only give them one answer. Rizal gave us something and made us realize something that we never had before, and this was our national identity. It made us realize that we were Filipinos.
Thank you so much for joining us here today, Hannah Maxine Cruz, the descendant of national hero Jose Rizal, and historian Dr. Jose Victor Torres from DLSU Manila. We really appreciate the time and are really glad that you did come over today. Thank you very much.
That was super fun.
Thank you.
I learned so
this.
much.
I'm
Thank you
so
for my
glad.
personal history lesson.
You can always ask me or check my Instagram.
Girl, I'm going to just
100%.
ask you. Don't
Go
worry.
follow that. And that is it for us this Monday, Rizal Day, December 30. I'm Paolo del Rosario. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm Anne Asis-Carilo. Wherever this day brings you, remember to choose joy, spread kindness, and bring your own sunshine.
And last but not least, and the best, I'm Monique Tuzon. You all stay safe and have a great day ahead. Join us again tomorrow at 7 a.m. only here on...
It's a beautiful day.